The State of the Union address last night, as you may have heard by now, it only lasted about 68 minutes. But during that 68 minutes, the president managed somehow to pack in more than just a few false assertions, some dubious statements, and frankly, some outright lies, which appeared, quite frankly, to be aimed at a campaign rally more than the history books. Well, joining me now to discuss all of this is Washington Stand senior reporter and editor Ben Johnson. Ben wrote a column today that literally fact checks last night's address, and he joins me now to break all of that down for us. Ben, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to have you.
Good to be with you, Congressman.
All right, so let's break this all down. There were so many false statements that came forth last night, and frankly, we're going to have to work rather quickly to get through as many as we can. Let's begin with the phantom ban on IVF that the president mentioned. Play clip 4, please.
The Alabama Supreme Court shut down IVF treatments across the state, unleashed by a Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. She was told her dream would have to wait. What her family had got through should never have happened. Unless Congress acts, it could happen again. So tonight, let's stand up for families like hers. To my friends across the aisle, don't keep this waiting any longer. Guarantee the right to IVF. Guarantee it nationwide.
Wow. All right, let's start with that one. Your reaction.
Yeah, the Alabama Supreme Court case that he's talking about had nothing to do with banning IVF. It was a civil case. In this case, there was a family that had produced some children and stored them in an IVF clinic in Alabama. Unfortunately, those children had been killed without their desire, and they wanted to know if they could sue for damages under the state's 1872 Wrongful Death of a Minor Act. The Alabama Supreme Court ruled that they could because they are children, but it had nothing to do with any criminal law trying to ban IVF. There was no such law. He made it up.
Yeah, it's just fear-mongering. And along that same general pathway, there were a number of whoppers, quite frankly, regarding abortion and the sanctity of life. I will be unpacking that a little bit further on in the program. But give us some of the highlights that dealt with the issue of life.
Oh, sure. One of the things that President Biden said was if he is reelected and he has a Congress that is amenable to it, then he will, quote unquote, restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land. Not that it was ever passed as a law. Of course, this was a Supreme Court decision. But the bill that Biden endorsed to do that goes way beyond Roe. The law in question is the so-called Women's Health Protection Act, the WHPA. And one of the ways you know that it goes beyond Roe is it would strike down 1,381 state pro-life laws that the American people put on the books while Roe was still active. So this obviously goes far beyond what Roe v. Wade had envisioned. That includes many pro-life protections after a child is viable, parental consent laws, parental notification laws, and many others. He also mentioned Kate Cox, who was in the gallery. Kate Cox, of course, had a heartbreaking story about her child being diagnosed in the womb with trisomy 18, and she wanted to get an abortion. But one of the things that he said that went even beyond the tragedy of that story, he said that her doctor had told Kate that her own life was at risk if she didn't act. Well, Cox's physician, Dr. Carson, had never certified that. That was actually what was at the heart of the Texas Supreme Court case. Texas abortion law allows a woman to have an abortion if her life is endangered by the pregnancy. However, she could never certify that. Her doctor, again, Dr. Carson, never certified that, so she ended up ultimately going to another state. So that never came about. One of the biggest flaws, myths, and what I thought was one of the most heartbreaking misstatements that the president made, he said that there are state laws banning the freedom to choose, as he calls it, and he says they force survivors of rape and incest to leave the states to get the treatment they need. Abortion is not a treatment because a baby is not a disease. I was particularly heartbroken that our mutual friend, Ryan Bomberger, who I know has been on this program many times, a man who was conceived in rape, was in the gallery when that came about. Again, he was conceived in rape. He speaks out for the personhood of the people who are conceived in that way and says we should not be treated in this manner. We are equally valuable with every other member of the human race. I'm sorry that the president diminished that. Finally, he said that President Donald Trump supports a national abortion ban. In fact, President Trump has not endorsed any particular bill, although he has said that he kind of likes 15 weeks. He has not officially endorsed that bill.
Yeah, those are fantastic points that you bring up, just outright misstatements all the way around. Part of it, too, the focus, a lot of the focus today has been on Laken Riley and the president's comments on illegal immigration. In addition to getting Laken's name wrong, he referred to her as Lincoln. But in addition to that, he also made this remark that I'd like to get your reaction. Clip 12, please.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals?
Wow. It's like, let's justify crime. Your reaction to that one?
Well, and I'm glad that you highlighted this, because this is something even a lot of people on our side of the aisle are getting wrong. A lot of people are saying, well, the president admitted that thousands of people are being killed by illegals. If you read the transcript and if you have closed caption on your television or you listen closely, he says how many thousands are being killed by legals. That is, people who are in this country legally. What he is doing, he's making this kind of an oblique reference. There was a study put out by the Cato Institution, Alex Nowrasteh, who said that illegal immigrants are less likely to commit violent crime than American citizens. That's highly contested by our friends at the Center for Immigration Studies, like Mark Krikorian, who was on this program earlier this week. They say that they got the data wrong. But essentially what Joe Biden is saying is, yes, she was killed by an illegal alien, but that doesn't matter. They're better than you are. And it doesn't matter if they're less likely as a percentage of people to commit violent crime or not. Ultimately, it does not matter. The fact is they should not be in this country. And if the Venezuelan illegal immigrant who killed her was not here, she would be alive today.
Ben Johnson, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to break down so much of the misstatements that the president mentioned last night. I mean, and there are more. We only touched a handful of them. But there's no doubt the president's going to be running on abortion, and he is going to be saying that democracy is in serious trouble unless he prevails. It's incredible what's taking place. Ben Johnson, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on Washington Watch. Thank you.